हेलो एंड वेलकम एवरीवन टू द डेली न्यूज एनालिसिस ऑफ 4th ऑफ नवंबर 2023। तो आज के इंपॉर्टेंट आर्टिकल वन बाय वन देख लेते हैं। डिफिकल्ट टू प्रेस फॉर वुमेन्स कोटा बिफोर लोकसभा पोल, सुप्रीम कोर्ट। देन दिल्ली's एयर क्वालिटी worsened to severe plus YouTuber Elvis Yadav booked for supplying snake venom at party. 5 Karnataka villages come under surveillance after Zika virus. Action and authority. Retrograde steps. Strong quake jolt Nepal tremor felt in North India. Then Kaveri authorities ratifies CWRC's decision on release water to Tamil Nadu. India will work with Sri Lanka on its debt treatment. Nirmala Sitharaman. Supreme Court verdict compels same-sex couples to lead dishonest lives. Israel tightens holds over Gaza City as Blinken arrives to push for more aids. We witness the most disruptive force in history, AI to replace all jobs, Elon Musk to PM Rishi Sunak. पहला जो है difficult to press for women's quota before Lok Sabha poll according to Supreme Court. The Supreme Court on Friday described the constitutional amendment reserving one-third of the seats in Parliament, state legislature and the Delhi Legislative Assembly for women as a very good step towards attaining gender parity in politics, but voiced doubts about stepping in to ensure the implementation of the quota law before the general election in 2024. It will be very difficult for us to do that. It will amount to virtually legislating Justice Sanjeev Khanna heading a division bench observed. However, the court listed the case on November 2022 along with a similar petition. The petition filed by Jaya Thakur, represented by senior advocate Vikas Singh and advocate Barinder Kumar Sharma, questioned a clause in the law which said the reservation should be implemented only after the next census followed by a delimitation exercise. Mr. Singh urged the court to declare the offending clause in the Constitution 106th Amendment Act of 2023 void ab initio. He argued that a constitutional amendment passed by the Parliament unanimously during a special session should not be made to wait indefinitely. Mr. Singh argued that it was settled law that a constitutional amendment cannot be held back unless it was found to be ultra vires the Constitution. A special session was called for implementation the reservation in the Parliament, State Legislature and the Delhi Legislative Assembly. Both houses passed the bill unanimously. The act was notified on September 28, 2023, but still the object of the act is yet to be realized, the petition said. The senior lawyer contended that deferring the implementation of the Act till after the census and delimitation amounted to a virtual stay on its effect and operation for ambiguous reasons. The petition referred to the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment of 1993, which gave women one-third representation in the local body elections. Dr. Thakur drew the court's attention to the 77th constitutional amendment extending reservations for promotion in jobs for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Finally, the petition highlighted the recent implementation of the 10th EWS 10% EWS reservation for poor forward caste sections of the society in educational institutions and public employment. It is said all these amendments were given effect without calling for census data. Delhi air quality worsened to severe plus. The combined effect of stubble burning in neighboring states, local pollutants, and unfavorable meteorological conditions resulted in Delhi's air quality slipping into the worst severe plus category for the first time this season on Friday. The development promoted Lieutenant Governor V.K. Saxena to call for an emergency meeting with Chief Minister Arvind, sorry, Arvind Kejriwal and Environment Minister Gopal Rai. Mr. Kejriwal, who is leading the Aam Aadmi Party's poll campaign in Chhattisgarh, did not attend the meeting. The LG appealed to people to remain indoor as much as possible, avoid unnecessary travel, and if necessary, use public transportation. A statement from Raj Niwas said Mr. Saxena has appealed to the neighboring state, especially Punjab, which accounted 1921 71.57 incidents of stubble burning of the total of 2684 such incidents on November 1 to curtail crop residue burning. The city's air quality index AQI score rose from 351 at 10 am on Thursday to 471 at 9 am on Friday and dipped to 468 by 4 pm. The graded response action plan, a set of emergency measures implemented in Delhi and NCR during the winter, has four sets of responses depending on the severity of the air pollution. Stage 1 poor AQI to 201 to 300, stage 2 very poor AQI 301 to 400, stage 3 AQI 401 to 450, then stage 4 severe plus, that is over above 450. Measures in place. The central government's Commissions for Air Quality Management CAQM had on Thursday announced the implementation of stage 3 of a GRAP, which resulted in a ban on construction and demolition activities and plying of BS3 petrol and BS4 diesel light motor vehicles in Delhi and a few districts in the neighboring states. All government and private primary schools in Delhi were closed till Saturday. However, the CAQM did not press for enforcement of a final stage of a graph, saying the city's AQI is already showing a declining trend since afternoon. As per protocol, stage 4 should be activated on the basis of a forecast at least 3 days before, for the air quality is likely to surpass the 450 AQI figure. Provisions of the graphs. Stage 4 include shutting down educational institutes, reducing staff strength at government and private offices by 50%, and implementing the odd even scheme for playing of vehicles. Weather forecast. An official at the weather department said unfavorable weather conditions, low wind speed, and a lack of rain are likely to persist for another 2 to 3 days. According to the official data for the period between September 15 and October 28, there was a fall of 59% in the number of stubble burning incidents in Punjab and 40% in Haryana. Compared to the same period last year, the data also showed a 30.6% rise in the case of stubble burning in Uttar Pradesh. Then YouTuber Elvis Yadav booked for supplying snake venom at party. Noida police on Friday booked reality show Big Boss OTT Season 2 winner and YouTuber Elvis Yadav and arrested 5 persons for supplying snake venom at a rave party in Noida. The accused were booked under the Wildlife Protection Act, which is a non-bailable offence and attracts a jail term of up to 7 years and sent to 14 days of judicial custody. The FIR was registered based on a complaint by Gaurav Gupta, an animal welfare officer at People for Animal at NGO run by BJP MP Maneka Gandhi. Ms. Gandhi sought the arrest of YouTuber and accused him of supplying snake in supplying snakes in Noida and Gurugram. Mr. Yadav termed the allegation baseless. Divisional Forest Officer Pramod Kumar Srivastav said they rescued 5 cobras, 2 sandboars, and a python and a rat snake, all of which fall under the category of endangered species. DCP Noida Ram Badan Singh said Mr. Gupta informed the police that he had, as part of a sting operation, contracted the YouTuber to purchase snake venom for a rave party at a banquet hall in Noida's Sector 51. Mr. Gupta said he had been put in touch with a man named Rahul Yadav who had agreed to the deal. 20 ml venom seized. The sting operation was conducted along with the officers of the Forest Department. A 5 accused present at the spot were arrested and 20 ml of snake venom was seized from them. The DCP said, adding that the venom was sent for testing to ascertain if it was psychotropic in nature. Mr. Yadav, who has millions of followers on YouTube and Instagram, gained popularity by hosting shows where he ridiculed or roasted public figures. In one such show, Mr. Yadav roasted Aryan Khan, the son of Bollywood star Shah Rukh Khan, for consuming drugs. Mr. Aryan was arrested in 2021 drugs on cruise case, but later given a clean sheet by the Narcotics Control Bureau. Bollywood has been trying to normalize how a 23-year-old boy Aryan Khan had consumed drugs. I don't like the blind supporter of Shah Rukh Khan who were supporting Aryan despite him doing something wrong. Aryan Khan was found processing illegal substances. I think what he did was wrong, he said in the 2-year-old YouTube video. He said in the 2-year-old YouTube video. Following report about the snake venom case, photos Mr. Yadav posing with several central ministers surfaced online when reached for comment. Mr. Yadav's team did not respond. Then 5 Karnataka villages come under surveillance after Zika virus outbreak. The Karnataka Health Department, who is closely monitoring the situation in the Chik- Chikbalapur after a mosquito pole in the Talakayalbeta village of the district was found to be positive for Zika, has sent serum samples of 30 pregnant women from the 5 villages in the containment zone to the National Institute of Virology NIV here for testing. As many as 888 houses, 888 houses with a population of 4,282 in the containment zone are under intense surveillance. Officials said mosquito samples collected from Thalakayal village in the jurisdiction of the Dibru Diburahali Primary Health Center during routine surveillance were found to be carrying the Zika virus. On Friday, the department submitted a detailed report on the surveillance measures undertaken to the National Center for Diseases Control (NCVBDC) under the Union Health Ministry. State Health Commissioner Randeep D said report were expected in a week. One second. The next है action and authority. Governors should not give scope for criticism. They challenge elected regime. that two states have approved the Supreme Court of India against the conduct of their governors once again flags the problem of political appointees in Raj Bhavan using their authority to delay the implementation of the decision by elected regime, if not undermine them. Tamil Nadu and Kerala had questioned the delay in the granting assent to bill passed by the legislature. Tamil Nadu is also aggrieved that proposals related to grant of remission of to some convict sanction for prosecutions of some former ministers and appointments to the state public service commissions have not been acted upon. Governors need not rubber stamp any decision, but one can question the practice of governor, especially in the state not governed by the ruling party at the center. Blocking decision and bills, for instance, some governor appears to be hostile to very idea of amendment to university laws if they seek to leave out chancellor. Invariably, the governor themselves from the forum, the process of appointing vice chancellor or establishing new university in which governors are not chancellor. The idea of having governors as ex officio vice chancellor of most universities is only a practice and is actualized through their founding statutes. However, governors seem to be laboring under the misconception that they have a right to be chancellor and tend to delay assent to any bill that clips or removes their power. It is the it is time to have a national prohibition on governors being burdened with the role of chancellor of any university as recommended by the Justice M. Punchi Commission on Center-State Relations. It is unfortunate that absence of time frame for giving assent is used by some governors to time laws passed by the legislature. One would One would have thought the Supreme Court's observation arising out of the Telangana government's petition reminding constitutional authority that the phrase as soon as possible appearing in the Article 200 of the Constitution contains significant constitutional content would have driven into them a sense of immediacy in considering bills. What the court meant was that it would be constitutionally impermissible for governors to indefinitely holds on the bill onto bills without conveying a decision. The state too ought to be prudent in their decision making without leaving scope for questions on the merit of of their decision. The absence of any laid down process to seek application and access to the relative merits of applicants before appointing the chairperson and members of the Tamil Nadu Public Service Commission in a case in point. The larger point that none should forget is that governors are explicitly restricted in their functioning by the aid and advice clause in the constitution and ought not to misuse the discretionary space available to them. Then retrograde step, misinformation and its more malicious variant, disinformation, have been the bane of today's unfettered communication system, especially social media, where the necessary filters are rarely applied over the spread of news and views, many of which are based on false information deliberately or ignorantly placed. The Tamil Nadu government's decision to constitute a fact-checking unit to deal with misinformation and disinformation pertaining to state government emanating from all media platforms sounds on the face of it a reactive step. This decision follows a similar move by the Karnataka government, but for the governments to deem themselves or units constituted by them as a adjudicator of what is false is a retrograde move as an interested party. deciding upon what is factual or not is problematic. Tamil Nadu's move must be seen along with the center's notification of the IT rules earlier this year, which amended the information technology rules 2021 and allowed the Ministry of Electronics and IT to appoint a similar fact-checking unit. Several parties, including the Editors Guild of India, the Association of Indian Magazines, and the political satirist Kunal Kamra, had challenged the IT rule enabling the unit. During the hearing, the Bombay High Court had raised the issue of the lack of necessary safeguard that will allow fair criticism of the government. It had also remarked that even if the motives for the introduction of such a rule was laudable, the tackle false news it could be done away with if its effects were unconstitutional. That is, if it infringed upon freedom of speech and expression guaranteed under Article 19 Clause 1 Subclause A of the Constitution. The verdict is said to be delivered on September 1, but the remarks indicate where courts stand on the constitution of a government fact-checking unit to adjudicate on reports and information relating to its functioning. The Editors Guild of India had urged Karnataka to specify the scope and powers of the fact-checking unit, besides suggesting that the menace of misinformation and fake news was best left to independent bodies and that a monitoring network should follow principle of natural justice, including giving prior notice, right to appeal, and judicial oversight. States have their information and publicity department that can clarify on news related to them, and there are independent fact checkers who tackle any misinformation on social media. It would have made express sense for such units to be set up with the involvement for journalists and other stakeholders, but that has also not been the case with the Tamil Nadu government's decision. देन नेक्स्ट जो दो आर्टिकल है, पहला जो है स्ट्रॉन्ग क्वाक जॉल्ट नेपाल स्ट्रॉन्ग क्वाक जॉल्ट नेपाल tremors felt in North India. Then Kaveri Authority ratifies CWRC's decision on release of water to Tamil Nadu. A strong earthquake of magnitude 6.4 jolted Nepal on Friday last night, sending waves of tremors across part of North India. The trembler struck at 11:32 p.m., forcing people to rush out of their homes just as they were preparing for the weekend. The National Center for Seismology said the epicenter of the earthquake was Nepal. The tremor was felt for quite some time as we were watching television and enjoying the weekend, said Indrajit Singh, a resident of Gurugram. The next is Kaveri authorities ratify CWRC decision on release of water to Tamil Nadu. The Kaveri Water Management Authority CWMA on Friday approved the decision of the Kaveri Water Regulation Committee CWRC to ask Karnataka to release 2600 cubic feet per second to Tamil Nadu till November 23. The ratification meant that the upper riparian state would have to release 5.17 thousand million cubic feet TMC feet in the next 3 weeks. When the CWRC took the decision earlier this week, Karnataka Deputy Chief Minister D.K. Srip Kumar, also in charge of the water resource portfolio, said the state did not have any water to release. As on date, the four reservoirs of Karnataka had a combined storage of 56 TMC feet, according to the post on the social media handle of the Karnataka State Natural Disaster Monitoring Center. Friday's meeting, held in New Delhi and attended physically by representatives of the two principal riparian states, lasted 2 hours. CWMA chairman Soumitra Kumar Haldar told the Hindu officials of the Kerala and Puducherry governments were present virtually. Tamil Nadu had sought the release of 13,000 cusecs, factoring in the backlog. Makadatu project, Karnataka wanted to CWMA to discuss and clear its 9,000 crore Mekedatu balancing reservoir cum drinking water project, but this was opposed by us, said then official of the Tamil Nadu government Mr. Haldar said that as it was an emergency meeting, there was no discussion on the Meghdatu project. However, the subject would be taken up at the regular meeting, he added. Then India will work with Sri Lanka on its debt treatment, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. India will continue collaborating with Sri Lanka on debt treatment while the island nation attempts to emerge out of last year's grave economic crisis, Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman told President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Sri Lanka must bring its major creditors, including China, India, and Japan, on board for a debt treatment plan agreeable to all in order to unlock the second tranche of the International Monetary Fund's IMF Extended Fund Facility (EFF). On October 19, Sri Lanka reached a staff level agreement with the IMF on economic policies on conclude to conclude the first review of the 48 months EFF supported program of the fund, following approval from the IMF management and executive board, which the fund he has said will depend on the critical step of Colombo reaching an agreement with its official creditor. Colombo will have access to $330 million. Further, in her discussion with the Sri Lankan President, Mrs. Sitharaman discussed cooperation in inter-grid connectivity, aviation power project, oil exploration in the northern town of Mannar. An official statement said the Union Minister arrived in Sri Lanka on November 1 on a 3-day visit. She called on senior Buddhist monks in the central Kandy district, visited Jaffna and Trincomalee, Trincomalee in islands north and east. While no new agreements were linked during the visit, some previously discussed projects were firmed up during the meeting held on Thursday night. Mrs. Sitaraman and Mr. Vikramasinghe witnessed the exchange of a revised memorandum of understanding on a $15 million grant assistance from India for the promotion of Buddhist ties between the countries, with $10 million out of the amount funding solar electrification of religious places. Nam 200. On Thursday, President Vikramasinghe thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Mrs. Sitaraman for the nearly $4 billion Indian assistance to Sri Lanka during the country's painful economic crash. If we are stable today, it is because of the assistance, Mr. Vikramasinghe said while speaking at the NAM 200 event held to mark 2 centuries since the arrival of Sri Lanka's Malayahas Tamils. They were brought to Sri Lanka by British planters to work in the country's coffee and later tea plantation. When Sri Lanka faced its unprecedented economic crisis last year, India felt duty bound to stand with its neighbors. The finance minister said, "We could not bear the difficulties out our friends in Sri Lanka had to face. Our government and the people of India acted collectively and came to assistance to in record time." Mrs. Sitharaman, who was the guest of honor, told the audience, the Sri Lanka, the Sri Lankan president and the union minister virtually launched the foundation stone laying ceremony for 10,000 houses being built in the hill country with Indian grant assistance. The scheme was announced 6 years ago during Mr. Modi's 2017 visit to the Central Highland. I am happy to share that the phase 3 is nearing competition with 3,700 houses already handed over to the beneficiaries. Mrs. Thurman said of the project to build 4,000 houses launched in 2016. Meanwhile, the 12th round of negotiation on the stalled economic and technology cooperation agreement between the two countries took place from October 30 to November 1 in Colombo. A delegation of 19 Indian officials led by Anant Sarup, chief negotiator and the joint secretary in the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, visited Sri Lanka, the presidential media division said. Supreme Court verdict compels same-sex couples to lead dishonest lives. The Supreme Court judgment on same-sex marriage compels couples who wish to join a real family to remain in a closest and lead dishonest lives. A review petition said the petition seeks a review of a top court's majority judgment refusing to legalize same-sex marriage. The judgment concludes same-sex partners suffer from the indignity of discrimination in their everyday lives, but then turns them away with best wishes for the future, Udit Su, the petitioner said. On October 17, the Supreme Court said it did not want to leave the constraint of judicial power to encroach into the legislative domain of Parliament. It said Parliament was the ideal forum to debate and pass laws or not on the question of conferring legal status to same-sex marriage, as majority of the three judges of the Constitution Bench disagreed with the view of Chief Justice of India D.Y. Chandrachud that the government should at least grant a civil union status to same-sex partners, saying such a concept was not backed by the statutory law. The review petition contended that the majority judgment contradicted itself on several fronts. For one, the Constitution Bench has said Parliament conferred social status for marriage as an institution under the Special Marriage Act of 1954, but despite this finding, the bench had finally settled on the opposite premise that the term of marriage were legally set independent of the state and the status of marriage was not conferred by the state. The petitioner had urged the Constitution Bench to include same-sex marriage within the ambit of the 1954 Act. The review petition emphasized that the right to marry was a fundamental right. The review plea pointed out that the 1954 Act excluded same-sex marriages from its ambit at a period when homosexuality was a vice and a crime. The petition noted that it was the Supreme Court itself which had discriminalized homosexuality. The majority judgment, the petition said, has fallen short of constitutional obligations of the Supreme Court towards the same-sex couples. Israel tighten holds over Gaza City as Blinken arrives to push for more aid. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Israel on Friday to press for more humanitarian aid to be allowed into besieged Gaza while Israel troops tightened their encirclement of Gaza City. The focus of Israel's campaign to cross the enclave's ruling Hamas group on the northern border with Lebanon. Tensions escalated ahead of a speech by Hezbollah leader Nasrallah. He is making his first public comments since Hamas attacked Israel last month. Hezbollah, an Iran-backed ally of Hamas, attacked Israeli military positions in northern Israel with drones, mortar fire, and suicide drones, stoking fear the Israel-Hamas war could become a regional one. The Israel military said it retaliate with warplanes and helicopter gunships. Since the war began on October 7, Hezbollah has taken calculated steps to keep Israel's military busy on the country's border with Lebanon, but so far has done nothing of the extend to ignite an all-out war. More than 9,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza so far and another 1,400 people have died in Israel, mainly civilians killed during Hamas initial attack. Third round of visit. Mr. Blinken is making his third trip to Israel since the Hamas attack. The trip takes him to the Tel Aviv and Amman, Jordan, and follows U.S. President Joe Biden's suggestion for a humanitarian pause in the fighting. The aim would be to let in aid for Palestinians and let out more foreign nationals and wounded. Around 800 people left Gaza over the past 2 days. Israel did not immediately respond to Mr. Biden's suggestion, but Mr. Netanyahu, who has previously ruled out a ceasefire, said on the Thursday, "We are advancing nothing will stop us," he vowed to destroy Hamas rule in the Gaza Strip. The US has pledged unwavering support for Israel after Hamas militants killed hundreds of men, women, and children and took some 240 people captive almost 4 weeks ago. Before Mr. Blinken departed, the US State Department reiterated American support for Israel's right to defend itself. At the same time, the Biden administration has pulled for Israel to let more aid into Gaza amid growing alarm over the humanitarian crisis in the Palestinian territory. More than 3,700 Palestinian children have been killed in 25 days of fighting. According to the health ministry in Hamas-run Gaza, food, water and fuel are running low under Israel's siege and overwhelmed hospitals warn they are on the verge of a collapse. Israel has allowed more than 260 trucks carrying food and medicines through the crossing, but aid workers say it is not nearly enough. Israel authorities have refused to allow fuel in. White House National Security spokesman John Kirby said the US was not advocating for a general ceasefire but a temporary localized pause. Israel and the US seem to have no clear plan for what would come next if Hamas rule in Gaza is brought down. A key question on Mr. Blinken's agenda on his upcoming visit, according to the US State Department. Earlier in the week, Mr. Blinken suggested that the Palestinian Authority govern Gaza. Hamas drove the authorities forced out of Gaza in its 2007 takeover of the territory. The authority now holds limited powers in some part of the Israel-occupied West Bank. Military officials said Israel forces have now completely encircled Gaza City, a dense-packed cluster of neighborhoods that Israel says is the center of Hamas military infrastructure and include a vast network of underground tunnels, bunkers, and command centers. The next time we witness the most disruptive force in the history, AI to replace all jobs. Elon Musk tells PM Rishi Sunak. The time will come when artificial intelligence replaces all jobs, according to a SpaceX and Tesla founder Elon Musk. I think we are seeing the most disruptive force in history here. Mr. Musk, who owns social media platform X, told UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Mr. Sunak was in a telecast conversation with Mr. Musk at the end of a 2-day summit on AI safety held by the British government in the Blachell Park. We will have the first time something that is smarter than the smartest human, Mr. Musk said. There will come a point where no jobs is needed, he said, adding that it was hard to tell when that point would be reached and that humans being will be challenged to find meaning in their lives. Mr. Musk said that on balance, most likely AI would be a force for good, but there was a chance of things going bad. I think there might be at times too much optimism about technology, and I say that as a technology, he said. And at another point in their interview, Mr. Musk said that in the future there would not be universal basic income but universal high income. Although he did not explain the mechanism through which this would be achieved in realistic chance. Mr. Musk also backed Mr. Sunak's controversial decision to invite China to the AI Safety Summit, saying that if Beijing was not on the guest list, it would be pointless. He argued that China was interested in AI safety and opposed to non-regulated development, and that he had on a recent visit to China engaged with the leadership in Beijing on this. We need everyone to approach us in a similar way if we are going to have a realistic chance of resolving it, Mr. Sunak said. China was one of the signatories, along with India, the US, and UK, and 24 other countries of the Bletchley Declaration, a communique signed on Wednesday, which agrees, among other things, that the risk of AI need to be collectively managed. Mr. Musk backed the call for AI regulation, saying that while it will be annoying, it would be good to have a referee. He thanked Mr. Sunak for hosting the summit on AI safety, saying it would go down in history as being very important. Mr. Musk pointed to the need for regulation as matters of public safety were involved in the case of a digital super इंटेलिजेंस। देन आज का जो लास्ट आर्टिकल है सिवरिंग लॉस्ट सर्विसेस लॉस्ट टीम इन अक्टूबर। India's services economy hit a bump in October with growth decelerating and price pressures flaring up as per the S&P Global India Services PMI, which dropped to 58.4% from 61 in September, signaling the slowest expansion since March. While output levels as well as the new business inflows rose strongly in October, the rate of expansion slowed in the face of competitive pressure and inflationary forces. The service-based PMI shows new businesses grew at weakest pace since May, with certain types of services seeing subdued demand. New jobs were created during October, but at the slowest pace in 3 months. The silver lining was that international orders saw the second fastest upturn since the PMI series started in the September 2014, with new orders from Asia, Europe, and the US. Therefore, faster surges in input cost and output charges during October, with rates of inflation outpacing their respective long-run averages. At the same time, a peak up in inflation expectation dampened overall businesses sentiment, said S&P Global Market Intelligence. Firms held higher food, fuel, and staff costs responsible for uptake in input cost, which compelled them to raise prices at a pace that was the strongest in close to 6.5 years. The future activity index fell by more than 5 points in October, signaling some loss of confidence surrounding the outlook for services output amid rising inflation expectation. So friends, this is all for today, and we will meet from tomorrow onwards with new news article from the Hindu newspaper. So till then, keep studying, and thank you all. Thanks a lot.